Dark. What do you have for us?
I have a little series called let me see if I can do this. Yarinaoshi Reijou wa Ryuutei Heika wo
Kouryakuchuu.
Kouryakuchuu? Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Kouryakuchuu. But yeah,
Also
roughly
something
known
like
as
that.
translates
Yari.
to
Yeah.
So
the
long.
do-over damsel conquers the dragon emperor.
hmm
Yeah, and this was the problematic age gap series that we were looking at in the previews. Um, because this is about a like princess named Jill Savelle, fiance of the crown prince Gerald de. Okay, they fucking mistranslated this. Awesome on Mal. That's great. Gerald de Kratos. And she is
Kratos?
yes, because she is the the lady god of war. Um, and so
Isn't the
the
Lady
show,
God of War Athena?
technically, isn't she also? Isn't I think Athena's also like politics. Um,
Or, I don't know, Freya. You
anyway,
could say Freya, but whatever. That's a different mythology.
and so what winds up happening is her current fiance Gerald betrays her and winds up hunting her down. And the show opens with her being killed. Or basically like about to meet her end, and then like the clock literally turns backwards. And so then she wakes up and finds herself back in her body at here it literally never, as far as I am aware, says how old she is in the show. It just specifies that she is, I think, to say below the age of 14, something like that. Because they're
Below.
like, oh yeah,
So,
because they're all like, oh, you get like
is that variable
engaged
age? Variable
before
age or not
you're.
in the feudal
Yes,
ages
it
is
is.
the
Like
real
it is
question here.
literally like, yeah,
Okay, okay.
like they're getting like shipped off before their 14th birthday.
Okay,
Is the
okay, okay, okay.
specification. But yeah, so it does the whole like, not villainous, but the whole like rewind type deal where she's like, oh man, I don't want to meet my doom again. And so in order to change the outcome of getting hunted down by her fiance, who also they describe like, this is a bit of a minor detail, but one of the reasons he hunts her down is he is a fucking like, they find out like she found out that he is actually in a relationship with his sister. So we've got that going
Mhm.
on. Um
It's cool.
and she winds up trying to go call off their engagement, or rather sabotage their upcoming engagement, because she knows like, oh, at this party like I'm gonna get engaged to this person, by stating like haphazardly, no, I'm not engaged to you, I actually fell for this guy right here. And she turns around and realizes it is this guy Rave, who
Yes,
is,
the Dragon Emperor.
yes, the Dragon Emperor from the
A very
Hades
tiny
Nation.
novel. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Of
he
the
is the
heavens? Is
yeah,
he
so
of
he
the
is the
heavenly
no,
lightning?
not quite. So they play it off more so with like Western fantasy thing of like he
Uh-huh.
can speak to like these Western dragons, like the Western style like dragons. He has dragon blood effectively, and he is the only one that can see the dragon god, which is the little chibi dragon, Rave, and like only him and Jill can see that. And so Jill winds up realizing she kind of put herself in an even tougher position because the Dragon Emperor that she knew was a like ruthless tyrant that was going around killing anyone who opposed him, so on and so forth. But wouldn't you know it, um, when she goes back to, I forget exactly what the port's name is, but it's like a small town part of the larger like empire that he's overseeing. And she winds up finding out about like his whole tragic backstory. You know, he is effectively cursed to be emperor. Anyone who tries to be emperor aside from him, including all of his siblings who tried to be prior to him, mysteriously died. So basically, like, it is literally like he became emperor because everyone kept dying, and they were like, well, I guess he has to be emperor due to the prophecy or whatever. So people are not too keen on him. But anyway, this winds up turning into a like do-over story. But I think what's been nice is it hasn't been a direct do-over like, say, Tear Moon Kingdom was. Where Tear Moon Kingdom was like, this is a do-over story, but she was like, oh, I'm gonna do everything right this time. But instead, what's happening here is that she put herself in a completely different situation. So she doesn't actually really know what's going to happen. Like, she knows a lot of people that she wants to avoid them, like, dying, things like that, friends and whatnot, and servants. And she does have, like, rumors of things that happened in this opposing nation that she's now in, that she has to work off of and try and, like, work out what actually happened based on these rumors, and like what's
So
currently happening to her.
this is more like a I don't want to say like soap opera kind of thing, but it's more like a personal drama kind of interpersonal drama kind of thing, and less statecraft
It,
stuff, right?
it's a little bit. It's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of statecraft. You know, there's obviously like there's the Marquis that like betrays the Emperor, and then they get into like open conflict. And you know, Jill has him like spare his life by like effectively like turning him into a pawn, so on and so forth. Same thing with like the enemy soldiers that invaded. And there is a decent amount of action, decent amount of like suspense with those sorts of things. And the sort of surrounding thing is light comedy with like Rave being a like, what would you call it? Almost like doting brother, doting sibling type situation. And yeah, it's just kind of like the two of them sort of being like the blushing, awkward, I don't know, I don't really know what you would call that, very like mushy type thing, while also not admitting, well, Jill like not really admitting that she's in love with him at all. More so of like trying to set this up as a sort of proposal slash marriage of necessity or of convenience. Whereas he wants to have like a partner who is eventually in love with him. But it is very clear that they both do like each other. And it's only really a matter
It
of
is
time
not
before that comes to a head.
yeah.
So it's kind
So
of a
is this
blend of a
like
lot of things, realistically.
it's a stage of the romantic relationship, the way it's portrayed and the way it's staged and progressed? Is it like oh, I think we're okay with each other, and then they grow used to each other, and then they fall in love, or do they just like each other and it's just like whatever? And then that sort of like subplot is kind of put as a side stream, and it's like, oh, we have this romantic relationship, while a lot of the other stimuli comes from the whole, again, this drama and statecraft stuff. Like, what is the status of
It
that
is definitely more
romantic
of the
relationship?
former. Like I said,
Okay.
the Emperor is very much like he's very much want like dotes on her, like bakes her sweets. The setup they're going for is more so of like, you know, the literally in a scene, the like bad boy but who's like a puppy essentially. And he acts like evil out of necessity. To get people under control. Granted, the idea is like to get him to sort of reform or to like see an alternative way to rule. While also Jill obviously saving herself. And then the sort of more political intrigue and the like actual like physical conflict turns into almost like a not really like a buddy cop situation, but like a like duo situation, like where they are more like partners. Because that is one thing I didn't mention. Jill is insanely powerful, and insanely strong with magic, and uses it to like bolster herself physically. Um,
Mhm.
so she like literally throws like a boat into port at one point, and that's also because she has prior knowledge of her life and like all of the magic skills that she had attained during it, and then trained herself as well before her like timeline really caught up, becoming problematic again. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, there's a lot of that. The romance is definitely lighter because of that as well, because of like they're not really trying to push it to be a full-fledged romance, I feel, just yet. um I mean, obviously,
So,
like
but
they literally
don't
do
this
bring up the age gap multiple times and are just like, yeah, we're not gonna like, we're not taking this like super seriously, obviously, until you are conveniently of modern age, of
so
contemporary
is the
legality.
core plot then the political intrigue surrounding the main character, and then they're gonna round it up at the end with smatterings of using the romantic relationship to help resolve matters. Is that sort of how the core structure is, or
A
what is
little
the
bit, because like
motivating force?
one of the main cruxes is that the curse that the emperor has fallen under is literally because of the two opposing gods of their nation. They like fell in love with each other as like the gods, and then they
Yeah.
like broke up, whatnot. And since he is like has dragon blood, obviously like the goddess of Kratos like was none too happy about that. But since she is an heir of like the nation of Kratos, them being together effectively neutralizes the curse, allegedly. And obviously that helps Jill too, because it means that she is relatively protected, of a protected status. So her old fiance can't get to her easily. Um, and yeah, I think that is really where a lot of the political intrigue is coming in. Is going to be of Jill reforming him to be not like a bloody tyrant, and then also avoiding her like other fiance, or her like past life fiance, and anything really to do with him. She's like
Mhm.
saved some people, based on, like I said, based on like the rumors she had heard from the nation she's in. And yeah, I think that's been probably the more enjoyable part about this, over say like the other sort of like redo things, like redo series like that, just because it's a little bit, she's not coming in with perfect knowledge of how to resolve a situation. She still does have to effectively like, think about what was hearsay, what was a misinterpretation, like a game of telephone, basically, that went over to her nation in her original life, and how to work around it. And also what's changed since she's in a completely different situation now, right? Like, in her past life,
She's
she did not
the
meet
yeah.
the Emperor. Like, she only met him when he was like a bloody tyrant and was fighting him.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. But yeah, it's like the interesting. So this is not the first, nor will it be the last series to have the sort of bend on the otome game isekai kind of like series, but it's like they do this where they die and then it goes back in time, right? There's been, I think, one or two other series like this, similar to this, but
Yeah. Like I said,
the
especially recently was Tier Moon Kingdom.
yes, yes, or no, there's another one that's like a villain. It's like the villainess, right? It was a
Yeah,
villainous
the
series, and
Villainous
then she
retry
dies
as
and goes back.
well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The
Yeah.
princess one or whatever. Yeah, but the idea is that, or rather, one of the interesting points of this is that usually when you get these isekai or isekai likes, what happens is the demon king or the Japanese person reincarnates, and because they're Japanese, a glorious Nippongonese person, Japanese person, or they're the previous demon lord, they have all this knowledge, and some of it inevitably becomes this power fantasy. But it is less like that in this variant because they're usually not some omnipotent being or omniscient being or some futuristic Japanese being compared to the feudal culture. They're just the same person, but 6 years behind or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good limiting factor in these sorts of structures, which is
Yeah,
nice.
it like because obviously, like I said, like she is still like god tier powerful, like very very strong,
Mhm.
as is the emperor. Um,
Yeah.
but politically and like to resolve situations properly, like she still does have to think things through of like, if I take this course of action, like what will that lead to? Like, what will that trickle down into? Um,
Mhm.
and like meeting people that she has really only heard about
Mhm.
and happenings on with them, and like I said, to figure out like which was hearsay, which was true, based on like how she's interacting with them.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty fun, pretty enjoyable because of that. Breaks it up a bit.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the audio visuals here?
Yeah, so what I had not mentioned was this is a light novel original from JC Staff,
Mhm.
and this is one of
For our
many JC
Japanese
Staff
stuff here.
series.
Mhm. Yes, this is
And
like one of
so
5 this season, which is silly.
yeah, so what's crazy is this is one of 5 like originals this season. If you count up the total series, like
This is original?
continuations,
Wait, no, you said this was light novel. Excuse me. Yeah.
I mean as far as like
Adaptations.
airing,
Yeah,
new
yeah,
airing,
yeah,
like
yeah,
not
yeah,
a
yeah.
non
Yeah, yeah,
sequel
yeah.
rather.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
crazy thing is, if you add all of that up, JC Staff has like 10 concurrent series like running right now. Like it's absurd.
Yeah.
Um,
Even with like a billion subcontractors, it's just too much.
Yeah,
It's too
that's
much.
like
Yeah.
wild. But I will say this is definitely one of the better JC Staff looking series in general and this season. It doesn't have like the most intensely animated action scenes and whatnot like all the time, but what's there is pretty solid, and the actual just general audio visuals themselves I think are also just pretty nice, just baseline. So I've been enjoying that. It does a lot of interestingly like thicker lines for the characters in a lot of scenes.
Mhm.
As opposed to like the way a lot of the backgrounds are rendered. It does not use very much CG, which is nice.
Oh, okay.
And trying to think other than that, yeah, like I said, it's
Architecture is
very
good.
interesting how they do the much thicker lines for the characters. It was not really what I was
Mhm.
expecting. The title, this like the promo art does look like it obviously, but it doesn't really capture that aspect of it, I feel. It's
Yeah,
not really
yeah, yeah.
reflected here. But yeah, it looks nice. Its comedy parts are very subtle, but does even like thicker lines, almost like I forget which I think like yeah, kind of like the way Bungo Stray Dogs renders characters in that sometimes. If you had ever seen that. But overall, I would say it's very solid.
Okay. Can you give me well, how about the OPED here?
Pretty good looking, but overall like standard. Nothing really special about it, but also it's not like a bad OP either. It does its job. It's nothing really stand out. Um, but that's more than can be said about some other JC staff OPs. So, I'll take what I can get. Um, it is nice to see, a show that is very clearly a JC Staff show. Like you can kind of see it in the way like the faces are rendered, and the eyes especially. That oh yeah, like this is JC Staff. Even it kind of at times looks like Rail Dex characters even. Um, same like style like stylistically.
Oh, okay.
But it is very shiny. Is the thing that's
That
quite
also doesn't
nice.
show as much in the poster art and like the promotionals, to be honest.
No,
Yeah.
no, there are definitely scenes and episodes where like you can tell like, oh, okay, like yeah, this is just like a uh shinier version of that.
Right, right,
But
right,
yeah,
right. Okay.
definitely more enjoyable than I would have expected. Um, I think if you like a sort of dynamic of, you know, the evil guy being misunderstood and being like the doter, cutesier character, um,
Mm.
I think you'll get a kick out of this. And I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. And yeah, I think
Okay.
there's really not that much else to say about it. Music, like audio wise, is fine. Like nothing crazy, nothing awful either though.
Mhm.
Definitely, like I said, more than you would normally expect from a JC Staff series, and pretty impressive considering how much they have under their belt.
Yeah, exactly. So how thinly they're spread right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Uh, what rating would you give this series?
My mall rating, I would say this is like a fair 7.5. You know,
Okay. Okay, pretty good.
I don't think it's like, you know, amazing. But if this is something that you like, if these sorts of character dynamics are something that you think you could enjoy, or you have enjoyed in the past, then this is, I think, definitely something worth checking out.
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dark. Again, this is YariRyuu, also known as which short for Yarinaoshi Reijou wa Ryuutei Heika or Kouryakuchuu, also known as the Do-Over Damsel Conquers the Dragon Emperor. So yeah, this is a one of these more uncommon variants of the current isekai otome game villainous-ish kind of genre, the subculture that's been developed, subgenre that's been developing over the years. I do like this variant of it. I obviously Dark did like this story as well. It is an interesting variant, and I'm glad that it turned out pretty decent for what it was, and it's not just following along the same lines as some of the other Ultimate Game villainous series that we've covered in the past couple of seasons. So,
Yeah, I will say if you're
th-
tired of a
yeah,
lot of those, then this is also another reason to if you like the things like of that nature, but you're like kind of tired of the current
yeah,
sort of formula,
yeah.
this does break it up a decent amount.
Yep.